The Region 6 RDC Chairman, Mr. David Armagon, delivered an update on the recent spike in COVID-19 cases at a press conference held earlier today. Julissa Hines reports.
Chairman of Region 6 Regional Democratic Council, Mr. David Armagon, held a press conference at the Council's boardroom earlier today to address the recent rise in COVID-19 cases in the region.
As I speak now, the total number of cases in the region since the pandemic started is 1,383, and a lot of this has to do with the last 3 months, 2 to 3 months. The total number of actives is 183. In other words, those people who are have the disease and either at home or in quarantine or in hospital. There are quite a number of hotspots in the region. New Amsterdam in particular, New Amsterdam, Angais Avenue. It's high in Skeldon, it's high in Rosal, it's high in Kanji, it's high in many areas within the region. No particular area has been spared. It was almost 200 a few days ago, but because we managed to discharge a few patients, that's why we are at 183 today.
The chairman further disclosed the number of COVID-19 deaths in the region.
Last month we had 9 deaths, and so far this month we have 10 deaths, and we're just halfway into June. So we have 19 deaths in 1.5 months basically, out of 39 deaths totally since the pandemic started. So out of the 39 deaths in this month and a half, we're accounting for 19 of those deaths. Our death rate is increasing nationally as well. Yesterday we had 7 deaths in the country, and so every day we seem to be getting a high number of deaths.
He further stated,
We have 167 patients in home isolation, and the rest we have some in hospital in Skeldon and some in hospital in New Amsterdam as well, and some at Liliendal. Now, as you know, as the Minister said yesterday, Liliendal is becoming almost full to capacity because we have 70 cases, 70 persons hospitalized, not from this region, but overall in Guyana we have 70 persons who are hospitalized at the Liliendal Center. And out of that, we have 21 persons in the ICU. So obviously, the situation is escalating. There is no doubt that either our people do not take this thing seriously, or we are very irresponsible in terms of our behavior.
Mr. Armagon went on to mention how the flood situation is a factor in the recent increase of active COVID-19 cases in Region 6.
One of the things too that might have attributed to this high number that we are seeing here in the region is the flood conditions as well, because in the flood conditions people have been gathering in large numbers in many places, trying to get flood waters out. A lot of them have not been wearing masks and have not been adhering to the COVID-19 protocols, and so as a result of that, that too might have led to some degree of spread within the region.
Mr. Armagon then shared these details.
Now, what we used to find, I don't know if there's a variant right now that is different from the one that we experienced before, but this one seemed to be deadlier, it seems to be more infectious, and it also seems to be affecting many young people. You know, what we found before is that most of the persons who were infected with the COVID-19 disease are people who would have been 50 years and over. What we are seeing now is that a lot of the persons who are infected are between below 52. Quite a lot of them are below 50 years of age.
Enforcement measures carried out by the Guyana Police Force has been improved to ensure residents adhere to the COVID-19 guidelines.
There has been some degree of relaxation in terms of enforcing the measures, I would say. And so a few days ago, the police have again started to enforce in a very vigorous way the the COVID-19 measures that has to be put in place to ensure that people follow the restrictions and people follow the guidelines that has been adumbrated by both the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization.
One of the main methods of containment of this virus is vaccination. The chairman disclosed these details on the vaccination process in the region.
Yeah, the vaccination, we have 54% first dose and 18.4% have taken the second dose. We are pushing ahead with the vaccines. So far, we have 54% of the adult population in the region vaccinated. At this time, I do not think that's sufficient. We still have quite a lot to do. Our adult population is just over 71,000 and we are just 54%.
He then highlighted some of the changes and measures that will be in place to improve the region's vaccination drive.
We will now be doing vaccines in the streets, in the villages. We have 3 or 4 mobile teams and we will be going around into these various communities and at the head of these streets and encourage people to come out and take their vaccines. Because if people can't come to us, we have to go to people to save them. Because that's one of our responsibilities, to save our population. We have 22 fixed sites in the region which is being published. And that's the everyday sites. Any one of these sites people can go to and have their vaccines. What I advise the regional health officer to do is to push back the timings. Normally they would stop at about 3:30 in the afternoon. Now what I find is that most people would take these vaccines later in the evening, in the afternoon. And so we will probably start a little later in the morning and push it back to later in the afternoon.
Lastly, Mr. Armagon noted,
as you know, the second dose, Sputnik is not available, so persons who are waiting for the second dose for the Sputnik vaccine, I understand through the Ministry of Health that that's going to be available sometime later this week. So we are hoping that once that comes into play, we will accelerate the process and make sure that those, and maybe work late to ensure that persons who have been waiting for the second dose of the Sputnik vaccine can receive it in a timely manner. And we have the other vaccines available. We have the AstraZeneca, the Sinopharm, and we have the first dose of the Sputnik available.
residents are encouraged to act responsibly, adhere to all COVID-19 guidelines, and to get vaccinated. Reporting for Channel 8 News, I am Julissa Hines.